Alton Towers is arguably the thrill capital of the United Kingdom. Over the past few decades, this park has been home to several revolutionary attractions. Examples include Oblivion, the world's first B&M dive coaster, Galactica, the first B&M flying coaster, and the Smiler, the first coaster to have 14 inversions. With such a rich history, it's clear to see why this was such a highly requested Former Coasters video. So this time, I decided to mix things up a bit with a certain special guest you may recognize. So without further ado, take it away, CoasterBot.
Number 8. Corkscrew. Opened in 1980, closed in 2008. This was the first roller coaster to operate at Alton Towers, debuting the same year the park opened to the public. Despite its name, it was not a standard aerodynamics corkscrew model, but was instead a Vekoma MK1200. This coaster model was the first one to be manufactured by Vekoma, with the first one ever built being the defunct Tornado at Wallaby, Belgium. Despite Corkscrew's initial popularity at Alton Towers, it eventually became known as a rough ride over the years. Its popularity at the park continued to decrease as bigger and better attractions were added. Finally, after 28 years of service and declining ridership, park officials decided to close the ride down in 2008. Its space was eventually replaced with a new Intamin family drop coaster named 13. While most of the coaster was scrapped, the park has since paid tribute to the coaster by placing its double corkscrew at the main entrance with a fresh coat of paint. It now serves not only as a lasting piece of the park's history, but as a rather spectacular way to greet the guests.
Number 7. Minneapple. Opened in 1982, closed in 1997. Wacky Worms are perhaps the most common coaster model in existence, with over 300 currently operating today. With their simple, minuscule layouts and accessibility for all ages, it's no wonder why so many of these coasters exist. Plus, it's hard not to get a kick out of that troll-faced train. Believe it or not, one of the first Wacky Worms ever built once operated at Alton Towers. It operated at the park for 15 years until closing in 1997, the year before Oblivion opened at the park. However, this coaster was not sent to the scrapyard. Instead, it was sent to Great Yarmouth Pleasure Beach, where it is still in operation. It is also the second oldest Wacky Worm still operating, with the oldest one being Masken at Sweden's Park and Zoo.
Number 6. Black Hole. Opened in 1984, closed in 2005. This Schwarzkopf Jetstar 2 was the only fully indoor roller coaster to operate at the resort. It was themed to space exploration and was pretty much the UK's equivalent of Disney's Space Mountain. Throughout its lifetime, this coaster underwent several changes. While the ride originally took place in complete darkness, lights were added to the lift hill to help riders brace themselves for the first drop. Moreover, it was modified to support high-capacity two-car trains in 1988 by a German steel company that would later become Marathon. The biggest change to the coaster came in 1998 with the opening of the park's new B&M dive coaster, Oblivion. Black Hole was integrated into a new themed area, and its yellow and green tent received a new blue colour scheme. It also received a new queue line and a steampunk themed station. Unfortunately, despite these attempts to spruce up the ride, it became very expensive to maintain, and its old-fashioned model was seen as out of date with the rest of the park. So, in 2005, the ride was closed down for good and later relocated to a Swedish park named Furuvik in 2011. Meanwhile, the ride's dome was left untouched for years until it was eventually torn down to make room for the Smiler in 2012. For those of you who missed the classic attraction, feel free to head down to Sweden and check it out.
Number 5. Beastie. Opened in 1983, closed in 2010. Like Minneapple, this is another compact family coaster that once operated at Alton Towers. Also like Minneapple, it was manufactured by Pinfari and featured a compact layout as well. Originally opening as Mini Dragon, this coaster was moved around the park several times during its lifetime. First, it operated under the name Mini Dragon at the park's former Festival Park section, an area now known as the Dark Forest. Afterwards, it was moved to the Thunder Valley section and renamed Beastie after another more thrilling coaster named Beast in the area. After the aforementioned coaster's removal in 1997, Beastie was relocated once again to the Adventureland section. There it would operate all the way until 2010, when it was put into standing but not operating mode. In 2011, Alton Towers declared the ride would never reopen, and it was eventually purchased by showman Walt Murphy. Murphy removed Beastie from the park and is currently traveling the ride as Dragon Challenge, which of course is not to be confused with the defunct dueling B&M inverts at Universal Orlando. Most recently, it was leased out to Barry Island Pleasure Park in Wales, and is currently operating seasonally with other traveling fair attractions. As for the land where Beastie once stood, it was eventually replaced by Octonauts Roller Coaster Adventure in 2015, which gave young thrill seekers another attraction they can enjoy besides the Runaway Mine Train.
Number 4. Forman Bob, opened in 1985, closed in 1990. Originally opening at Trentham Gardens, this Zero coaster was moved to Alton Towers for the 1985 season. As its name implies, this coaster seats only 4 passengers and features bobsled-esque trains. It was a compact, moderate thrill level coaster featuring plenty of drops and bank turns. This ride operated in the park's Tower Street area for a brief 5 years before it was once again relocated in 1990. Despite the fact that it closed in 1990 though, it was left off the park's maps for its final 2 seasons of operation. Many have speculated this was due to park officials wanting to advertise other rides in the area. After its stay at Alton Towers, this coaster was relocated 4 more times. It operated at Pleasure Island Family Theme Park, Flamingo Land and Groveland before it was finally moved to Scotland's Loudon Castle. However, it only ended up operating there for the 2010 season and is currently standing but not operating on the property.
Number 3. Alton Mouse, opened in 1988, closed in 1991. Yes, at one point, Vekoma actually manufactured a wild mouse. Despite how abundant these kind of coasters are though, this is the only one they've ever built. Originally opening at Austria's Wiener Prater, this coaster operated as Speedy Gonzales from 1985 to 1987. In 1988, it was moved to England where it was given the new name Alton Mouse. Perhaps the most defining feature of this ride is the tilted lift hill, which leans riders slightly to the right on the way up. This unusual method of ascension may seem completely random, but it actually had an interesting purpose when it was first installed. Back at Wiener Prater, the lift hill was surrounded by a rotating tunnel. When combined with the tilted lift, the tunnel gave guests the illusion that they were being spun upside down like a spit roast. Unfortunately, the tunnel was removed upon its installation at Alton Towers. Despite its initial popularity, the coaster only operated at the park for 3 years. This was due to noise complaints it received from the nearby Alton Village, which also caused the relocation of another coaster named Alton Beast. After its closure, it was relocated to Pennsylvania's Idlewild, where it is currently operating as the world's only attraction. If you're wondering what a tilted lift hill feels like, go ahead and check this one out.
Number 2. Thunderlooper, opened in 1990, closed in 1996. Before the magnetic and hydraulic launches of today's launch coasters, Anton Schwarzkopf developed a weight drop system. This system would be used on his earliest shuttle loop models, and one of these coasters formerly operated at Alton Towers. Previously operating at King's Dominion and Maryland's Jolly Roger amusement park, this was the first launch coaster to come to Alton Towers. Its simple design included a single vertical loop that guests would travel through both forwards and backwards. However, despite its status as a high-level thrill ride, it was a short-lived attraction, only operating for 6 years at Alton Towers. This coaster's short stay was reportedly due to planning requirements and was so loud that it received several complaints from the locals. 2 years after the ride closed at Alton Towers, it was moved to Brazil's Hopi Hari amusement park. There, it continues to operate as one of only 2 Schwarzkopf weight drop shuttle loops still standing, the other one still operating being Golden Loop at South Africa's Gold Reef City. So if you're eager to add this rare model to your credit list, you might want to book a ticket to Brazil or South Africa.
Number 1. New Beast, opened in 1988, closed in 1997. 5 years after opening a Jetstar 2, Alton Towers went one step further with a Jetstar 3 named Alton Beast. This coaster was also known as simply the Beast, which of course is not to be confused with the famous wooden coaster at Kings Island. Originally opening in the park's Talbot Street section, this coaster was reportedly marketed as the largest coaster in the United Kingdom when it first opened. Of course, this is despite other coasters like Grand National being taller and longer. Nevertheless, the ride proved to be extremely popular and was yet another thrilling coaster by Schwarzkopf. Like Alton Mouse, this ride ran into some issues when noise complaints were made by local residents. Unlike Alton Mouse, the Beast was not removed. Instead, it was refurbished and sent to the Thunder Valley section in 1992. It was renamed New Beast, and for years it was rumored that the relocated coaster was a different physical ride. This caused plenty of confusion among enthusiasts. However, welding marks made by maintenance were still visible upon its relocation, proving that it was the same coaster. It would resume operating for 5 years until being relocated to Mexico's Divertido amusement park. Believe it or not, it was renamed Space Mountain in Mexico and featured a tent quite similar to black holes. After its stay in Mexico, it was moved to Colombia's Saltir Magico in 2010, where it was renamed Tornado. Shockingly enough, it too is still operating, which means that every single Schwarzkopf coaster from Alton Towers is still in operation. Long live Schwarzkopf. Before I wrap things up, I'd like to announce the results of the last weekly poll. Last time I asked, which of the world's oldest coasters have you ridden? According to this poll, the coasters with the fewest number of rides are Jackrabbit at Seabreeze with only 43, Scenic Railway at Dreamland with 27, and and Scenic Railway at Luna Park with 26. So these are definitely the rarest coaster credits on this list. And for this week's weekly poll, I'd like to ask, which park should I do a former coasters video of next? There are so many parks to choose from, and honestly, it gets pretty difficult to decide which video to make next. So feel free to head on down to themeparkcrazy.com and cast your vote. Thanks for watching, everyone, and special thanks to Harry from CoasterBot for making this video possible. A link to his YouTube channel is in the description, and as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. This is Theme Park Crazy, and I'll see you all next time.